Good morning to you and yours. Welcome to another edition of XFeed. My name is Schiller, talking NFTs, crypto, and all that kind of fun jazz. So today it feels like it's almost a somber day in sorts because we are going to be highlighting certain things that don't feel that great, but it's the reality of the situation across the globe. Things changing, and we're going to end on a video that somebody made about money being worthless. Well, you'll see exactly what they're planning to do, but thank you so much for tuning on in. We are live over on Abstract if you're wanting to follow on there. If you're going to check that out, I don't think there's too many people streaming on there, so you should just see that it's there under Schiller. All right. Telegram stickers. These are the new flex, and I feel like all of the collections are doing them, and I had no idea this was even a thing until like yesterday. So the new digital flex is Andrew Forte. From Klano, Pudgy Penguins to Doodles, many IP brands are launching their own collection and here to stay. I've only seen a few posts from a few people about the stickers, so that could change. Silly season could still happen for Telegram stickers. Collections sell out very quickly, and turning a profit has become somewhat automatic. Brain rot culture has programmed us to constantly look for the next thing. Flexing digitally won't ever stop, but the mediums will be different. First, it was NFTs, and now seemingly Telegram stickers. Here's some of the data so far. With $4 million total volume, kind of insane. The market cap for them pushing 18 million, kind of insane. But Pudgy Penguins, Doodles, and Azuki have or are releasing their own, with Claynosaurs releasing their first sticker pack yesterday with a supply of 3,333. And I mean, these are cool. People obviously reply with gifts now more than anything. It's a little bit better than responding to somebody with just the letter K, which is always a fun happening. But Bored Ape Yacht Club jumping in on that fun as well, saying that they are going to be dropping their own stickers as of today. So we'll see what these look like and how they do. But all of a sudden, Telegram stickers are the talk of the town. One thing that I did not think was going to be the case. When we started stream yesterday, Abstract Chain, the official X account, was compromised, and kind of wondered, all right, was this a social engineering trick? Was this something that's a compromise at X, which is something that I keep saying, yo, Dr. Batcow, what's going on? How are we? Yeah. You ever wake up and you just like look at the drama on the timeline and you're like, what's going on? We're all hanging out in person, that nothing would happen. You know what I mean? If we're hanging out, you and I at Denny's, no drama in the world. So this is the potential culprit of the Abstract X account hack. Obviously, there's going to be different individuals that have access, right? So sometimes there is a little bit of an oopsie daisy. And Das saying, willing to bet that the unfortunate Abstract Chain account hack right now is due to the specific fish below. This is my second favorite fish this year, second to the one that got somebody else, looks super clean. If you get this, absolutely do not click. And so this is super similar to the one that Melina clicked on the other day when we highlighted. And this one, without being, well, actually, I guess this is like exactly the same. Content case notification, hi Captain and company. We have received multiple reports regarding a post you shared on X indicating that it may contain copyrighted or unauthorized material. This content may not align with the terms and services and the community guidelines of X, particularly in relation to the use of copyright content. So this is confusing to me for a couple of different reasons, because number one, it feels like generally X is fine with you posting generally whatever. So why would it be against terms of service? I don't exactly know. Second of all, what the hell was the other thought that I was going to have with this one? Oh, the email. The email. Look at this. It says casenotice-x.com. I mean, if the email looks suspicious, it probably is. It probably is. So some of these things are just straight up obvious in terms of clicking on the email. But again, just knowing how X operates, and generally speaking, people just get like community noted if something's wrong. I don't think I've seen anybody necessarily say anything about a copyright infringement. Apparently, you can buy unclaimed luggage on things that like you didn't know and probably don't really care about, but it's like, oh, that's interesting. I had no idea. The more you know. So with the hack of the passwords and everything yesterday, if you missed it, there was like 16 billion that were leaked. I'm still seeing a multitude of reports and people assessing the situation and saying, well, no, it's not like a single instant that just happened. It's like a culminative of like saying, oh, from this hack, this happened, saying like all together it equaled that amount. But here's some fascinating details. So people using the same two pairs of numbers, people using 4321 for 4-digit pins, or 1234, and then using their birth year just straight up, or doing like a month day or day month. I mean, it seems sort of obvious when you say that out loud of like, yeah, okay, there's going to be obviously the people that do the 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going for the birth year or something easy they can remember. But funny seeing in a chart such as this. So this is super weird. I guess they're changing a street in Vancouver to this, which, like, I don't know what language this even is, but it sparked a whole bunch of uproar. And part of the point that, like, the world is changing in the strangest of ways, and we have to adapt to whatever it is. And I think in the AI terms of things, the jobs terms of thing, where Canada unemployment rate here is upwards of 7%, and we're seeing this across the globe. Is this something that is going to change? Is there going to be things that open up more? Are we as humans just going to be addicted to watching cat videos that are AI generated, jumping off a board? Where are people going to go to things? And I don't really know what to think. And it is weird watching all of this, because you sit here, we talk about the news, and we're kind of in like our la-la land, right? But a lot of the la-la land is bringing some interesting things. Does it create some jobs in a chance? Does it turn things kind of south? I don't know. But to a point that I've been making quite often is, I still think that filters of our favorite things are going to be massive. Whether it be IP, whether it be content, whatever such as this, just filtered in the way that we love. And instead of divers, we have cats. Unreal. Do you understand what this means for other side? We have the Morpheus platform that is now having a mobile app. Seeing a lot of people being very, very bullish around things that are mobile. I think that's cool. I think that's great. But again, it's all about adoption. How many players are actually coming on board? That's realistically the only thing that matters, period. South Korea's central bank says it won't oppose a won-bagged stablecoin. Funny. We continue to see just an absolute focus on the stablecoin markets as a whole. And leading that charge is the Circle stock. They had the IPO before. It was like $30 or whatever to buy initially. Lupify is saying Circle is so high because people want to bet hard on the stablecoin industry, but there was no winner they could publicly invest into. Good take. Not even about valuations or anything, just pure how do I get exposure? And look at this. Came out at like $30, right? It's up to $200. And again, recently on the RWA Segments podcast, we did a huge special talking about stablecoins with XDC. Like, what's going on here? Is stablecoins really the only thing that matters? And everything else is now just looking at as fluff. No pun intended. Peter Parker, if you idiots send BAYC under 11 ETH, I think I may have to grab my second. One thing that I think is hilarious about this space is you have people that are like terrified to put $50 into the space, and then we have other people that are like, you know what, $30,000, no problem whatsoever. So you get the absolute wildest of bunches in this. And then on the collab front, Krispy Kreme going out and doing something with Pokemon, which is going to bring a whole another layer of customers and interest to Krispy Kreme. Pokemon's still the most dominant IP. If you remember back when Sui had rumors that Pokemon might be involved because for Niantic there was some weird like minor connection that people started speculating like, oh my god, Pokemon's coming on chain. Well, it might not be coming on chain yet, but they're coming to a donut shop near you. So Nev built this video talking about fiat collapsing and stablecoins being the fix. And I thought, you know what? Let's give it a go. We probably won't watch the entire thing because it's like 17 minutes, but let's give it a couple of minutes.
Experts are saying our money is becoming worthless.
We have a breaking down of the monetary order.
What might be the greatest threat of our lifetime, the collapse of the dollar.
And I'm worried about something worse than a recession.
Honestly, you don't need to be an expert to feel it.
We're paying more for food.
Prices are going up.
Rents are going up too.
Which has accelerated into a full-blown crash.
Are you saying that it could be as bad as a depression? What's your biggest fear?
The value of money
But there's a new tech that's been quietly gaining momentum that apparently could help fix all of this.
Effectively a new form of M1 electronic money.
Stablecoins.
I have been obsessed with stablecoins since my time at Fidelity.
And we think it's the future of the financial system.
So I think we could create trillions of dollars of demand for our treasuries practically overnight.
That's why stablecoin money is such an innovation.
But what the hell is a stablecoin? Is it like Bitcoin or the opposite? Is it a scam? I thought I'd spend an hour figuring it out, but instead I ended up going back to the beginning of human history. What is money? Why do we trust it? Who controls it? Can we upgrade it? If stablecoins really are the next version, do they fix the system? Are my eggs and my beer with my mates gonna get any cheaper? Or is it just a rebrand of the same old problems? And this story, it all begins with a chicken. 10,000 years ago. There's no coins, no cards, no numbers, just barter. You've got a chicken, I've got some grain. We argue, we swap, we hope it's fair. But barter gets annoying fast. What if I don't want your chicken? And what if I only want half a chicken? Ancient Mesopotamia, we're using clay tablets to track grain IOUs. Basically, receipts. You lend me 10 bushels of barley? I'm gonna write it down. That's money now. Next stop, ancient China. 1200 BCE. You're trading cowrie shells. Rare, shiny, imported from the Indian Ocean. They feel valuable, so they become valuable. Cowries become the dominant currency, not just in China, but later across West Africa too, where they are used for centuries. Difficult to counterfeit, making them reliable as money. And humans, at this point, we start trying loads of different stuff. In ancient Rome, soldiers were paid in salt, which is where we get the word salary. Salary. Crazy. The Aztecs used cacao beans. Native Americans traded wampum, beads made from shells. Beautiful, portable. Treaties were written in it. Medieval Finland and Russia used squirrel pelts. Basically, if it was rare, portable, or hard to get, someone tried to use it as money. Which brings us to Lydia. 700 BCE, modern day Turkey. Someone finally goes, what if we made our own money? They melt down precious metals into round coins, then stamp them with a lion's head, a royal seal. Boom. Official currency. Hard to fake, easy to carry. The king says it's real, so it's real. 600 CE, we're back in China. The Tang dynasty. This time, it's paper. Government backed. Doesn't really catch on until the Song dynasty in the 11th century. But once it does, it changes everything. Even Marco Polo writes home, what the hell is this stuff? They're using paper as money? But before we go to Europe, Micronesia, the island of Yap. Here, people used massive limestone.
This is absolutely fascinating.
Stone discs, rye stones. Some were 12 feet wide. Too big to move, so they didn't. Ownership was tracked by oral tradition. Everyone just knew who owned which rock. You want to buy a house? Just say, hey, that big rock by the tree, it's hers now. And everyone then agreed that it now belonged to her. And it worked. Value didn't come from portability. It came from social consensus. Honestly, it was like an analog stone blockchain. Back to paper money, but in Europe. Centuries after China first created it, thanks Marco Polo, they try it, but it's messy. To make it feel real, they back it with stuff. Gold, silver, sometimes both. That's the bimetallic standard. You get a paper note, this amount is worth X amount of actual metal. But every country did it differently, trust got a bit shaky, banks collapsed, the world needed a standard. Britain goes, all right, from now on, pounds get backed by gold. Only gold. Terrible accent. I live in England, what am I doing? Boom, the gold standard was born. Other countries followed. The idea? You could literally trade your paper money for gold. Like, 1 for 1. It kept things stable. But then, war, inflation, depression. By the 20th century, it started falling apart. The 1940s, World War II. In POW camps and bombed out cities, trust in money collapses. So people improvise. Cigarettes become the unofficial currency. They're portable, divisible, and always in demand. It wasn't just prisoners, civilians across Europe traded them too. Not because they were backed by gold, but because everyone agreed they had value. Fast forward, it's August 15th, 1971. Nixon goes on TV and announces,
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
The gold standard is over. Money is no longer backed by metal, just paper and belief. called fiat currency. After that is where we moved to digital banking in the 80s, 90s, and noughties. Credit cards, online transfers, apps. Money slowly became just numbers on a screen. Paper notes or cash start to have legal limits in countries like where I'm from.
Australians could face 2-year jail sentences under proposed laws that limit the use of some cash transactions.
If you zoom out, we as humans have thought about money differently so many times and in so many different ways. We went from barter to commodities, to coins, to gold, paper backed by gold, and then just paper backed by belief, and then digital pixels backed by more belief.
You know what a fugazi is? Well, fugazi, it's a fake.
Yeah, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Fiat money, the original sin. That's not a phrase that I came up with. Economists at Deutsche Bank, the CFA Institute, and a bunch of financial historians all use it. They use it specifically to describe what happened in 1971, when Nixon cut the dollar's last connection to gold. But why did Nixon do it? There must have been a reason. Were things not working? Well, yeah, they weren't. They weren't really working for a while, which is why in World War II we had the cigarettes thing happening. People were starting to lose faith in money. Trust. The gold standard was rigid, great for discipline, but terrible for flexibility. When economies crashed or war broke out, governments needed a way to act quickly. Fiat, money not backed by gold, gave them the ability to do that. It was a new tool, and it was kind of brilliant. It clicked for me when I started to think about fiat like antibiotics. In a crisis, it can save the patient. Governments and central banks can inject cash, or print money, lower interest rates, and just generally stimulate the economy when there's a recession, a global crash, or even pandemics like when COVID happened. They could also fund roads, hospitals, social safety nets far more easily by, creating more money. They weren't restrained by having to get gold to make the money. They could just make it.
To the person who is about to grab their car keys and go to the ATM and take out $3,000, you say what?
You don't need to. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the banking system.
But, and this is a really big but, if it's used too often or just irresponsibly, it stops working, just like antibiotics. And you can even get bad side effects.
And there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Every new dollar that gets printed makes the dollar you currently have worth less because there's now more of them in the world. And that has real impact, more than I know I thought about in my day-to-day life. If 3.5% inflation happened in a year and you had $100,000 in savings, at the end of that year, you would lose $3,500 of purchasing power. And this would apply to your wage as well. If you aren't getting a pay rise in the equivalent amount to inflation, you're getting a pay cut. And that's been happening to people for decades. And when you take all of that and compound it annually, our money is melting away.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor.
I don't. There's gonna be like two of you that maybe get the reference, but there's like a music video that somebody made of taking that clip of Michael Saylor, and we call them poor. Maybe I'll find it after. It's actually a banger.
Without limits on printing, governments borrowed more, spent more, and global debt exploded. It's now over $315 trillion, which is more than double since the last crisis in 2008. And that's scary. With so much extra money pumped into the economy, asset prices like houses and stocks shot up. But here's the catch. Those assets might not actually be becoming more valuable. The money that we use in society is just becoming worth less. It's exactly the same thing, but you just think about it in the opposite way. So if you owned assets, you got richer, or inversely, if you didn't own those assets, you got left behind. And those assets became harder and harder to reach because what you were earning, money, it just could never get there. This is a widely known theory amongst economists called the Cantillon effect.
Anybody that's rich in the world, they own property. The royal family of England, it didn't sell all of its property in central London in order to buy, currency or paper money.
As the world became more tech savvy, instead of upgrading the system, we just upgraded the interface. We took this flawed system and put it onto our screens, our laptops, our mobile phones, and I guess it felt like an upgrade. But in reality, it just compounded everything and made it happen faster and faster. Digital banking doesn't equal digital money. They're two very different things. So this 1971 thing, the Nixon shock, it wasn't just a small thing. This one event could be the root cause of so much of our economic problems in the world, and likely why a lot of economists call it the original sin.
Simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money.
They're now saying that stablecoins could be the fix. So what are they and how? A stablecoin is just like a dollar. Same value, same use, just with upgrades. And yeah, it's crypto, but not the scammy kind. In fact, it's the opposite. It's really boring, but that's what makes it so special. Unlike the rest, it doesn't swing up and down in value. It just uses all of the tech that crypto has to improve what we already have. Stablecoins stay stable using something called pegging. No, not that kind. It just means one thing is locked to the value of another thing. Always equal, 1-to-1. The most common type is cash backed. For every $1 of stablecoin, there's technically $1 sitting in a bank somewhere. It's like a digital IOU. And that stablecoin, it becomes your claim ticket. And how do you know that that backing is real and someone's just not lying to you? Blockchain. That's the thing that powers Bitcoin. Public ledger, visible to everyone, that says, yes, this dollar is backed, it's totally legit. Here's where, here's how much. I see a lot of similarities to ancient Mesopotamia and the gold-backed dollar. Of course, not every stablecoin works the same way. You can technically make that 1-to-1 be anything, right? Some are backed by crypto, some are backed by gold. Some use algorithms and weird setups, and those experiments have had some pretty catastrophic failures in the past. But when it is backed properly, that's when it becomes usable. Like, go to the grocery store and buy some milk usable. Because if something costs $2, you have $2. Stablecoins are already providing some massive benefits around the world, like instant payments anywhere, no international borders. There's close to no bank fees, which is a pretty big deal when you consider that last year there was $50 billion in bank fees paid. It also provides access to the unbanked. There's no central entity
$50 billion to bank fees
that's going to say no, you're not allowed to have access to money. And right now, that's 1.4 billion people worldwide. It also has inflation protection in countries like Argentina and Nigeria, where local currencies can have upwards of 100% inflation every year. This tech is a real lifeline in many places around the world. But it also provides some advanced features, I guess. See, you have the ability to be your own bank. The ways that the banks made money, you can now do yourself. You get access to those wealth building tools that you previously didn't.
Look at me. Sure. Look at me. Sure. I'm the captain now.
Risky, of course, but also lots of possibility. And this is ultimately why I guess I'm seeing it everywhere and every major business is integrating it. Circle launched on the stock market and it was the most successful debut in the last decade. Shopify is rolling out USDC payments. Stripe just launched payments across small to medium businesses around the world. Uber is actively exploring payouts with stablecoins. Trump himself launched his own stablecoin called USD1. South Korea just passed laws to let companies issue their own stablecoins. And overall, global adoption is genuinely exploding. 161 million people worldwide now hold stablecoins. Stablecoins are now processing triple what PayPal does in a year. So what's the catch? You know how people can choose what backs a stablecoin? Most of the stablecoins right now, they operate backed by cash or fiat. So a lot of the problems that fiat created, they aren't completely solved. The biggest stablecoin is called Tether, and they have 61% of the market share, $110 billion in circulation, which is backed by cash equivalents, so not always cash. The second is USDC, which has around 25% market share, with over $33 billion in circulation, backed by cash and treasuries. This means that using these major stablecoins, you still have a lot of the downsides of fiat money. And in terms of centralization, Tether and Circle are both fairly centralized. They're almost like modern banks. So you are trusting these issuers. And while Circle offers public audits backing up what's in circulation, Tether doesn't really have that level of transparency.
Well, for once, the rich white man is in control.
Bitcoin advocates will say that stablecoins aren't far enough. Bitcoin is the real solution, decentralized, finite, uncensorable. And honestly, they're not wrong. But Bitcoin has downsides, primarily around volatility, just like almost all other cryptos. It makes it pretty hard to use in day-to-day life, like budget for your rent or earn your wages in. You can't operate a society functionally with something that fluctuates 20% every month. So I see stablecoins as the bridge, a hybrid solution using this technology that I really think is important, blockchain. Think of it like this. Bitcoin is digital gold. It's a store of value, and you could use it as a hedge against systemic collapse. But on the other side of the coin, funny little pun, stablecoins are like digital cash, used for paying bills, salaries, groceries. Together, they provide a really interesting upgrade to money, something that allows people to choose their level of risk and whether they believe that the economy is collapsing, or if that is all just people like me being crazy on the internet about the collapse of everything we know and love. But no matter what your stance is, it's clear that stablecoins are being adopted everywhere in the world, and they are solving real problems. Especially when almost every small business and online store can now just start accepting it. What do you think? Are stablecoins the future of money? Thank you for watching this. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed, liked, shared it with your mum.
That was an absolutely phenomenal watch. I don't know if Dr. Beckel, if you're still here, but wow, what a video. So everyone's going to have a different takeaway from watching that. And if you joined a little bit late, thank you so much for coming on through. Feel free to check the replay or check out the video itself because it's Nav here. So Nevly fans, this is the account. He's on X2. I'll probably retweet it momentarily. My takeaway from that, though, more specifically, was that when talking about different money and the value, every century, whatever form of money that he went through there, it was around people universally saying, that's money. We collectively agree that that has value. And I think a lot of people within crypto see value in a multitude of different things, obviously within the digital asset side of things. And then within these different currencies, and it makes you kind of think, okay, well, if all of these things are just infinite printed whatever, obviously you'll and so like to go back, there was an older gentleman that I helped set up and like move in their TV. And they bought this massive TV. And they weren't technically savvy whatsoever, like to the point of they had an Apple box next to their TV, and they're like, I don't know what that is. I was like, okay, so it's just there? Like, somebody had to have plugged that in. And didn't really know anything else, right? Wonderful gentleman. Was really technologically illiterate, which was fun. But the only channel they wanted that for was Bloomberg Technology. I think it was the only channel that they watched apart from sports. And you forget for a second that, well, you know, for heavy X users, you get a ton of different varieties on perspectives, both sides of the aisle for whatever topic, right? And a lot of these channels, maybe not even like for TV, but it's always kind of, okay, you just learn whatever you happen to come across here. And I think the people that have delved into blockchain are very open to a lot of things where the vast majority of the world, there's still always going to be, you know what? Cash, money, dollars, that's going to be their only perspective of value. But I think for a lot of the other generations and whatnot, we're going to have a changing perspective. And that one was super cool to see the history, the comparing the fact of, hey, you know what? Fiat's got its problems and these stablecoins are basically the exact same thing, but this time digitally. But is it because it's digitally backed by something that has access to these other systems, which I mean is also sort of the same for fiat, right? Like you can go out, you can buy stocks, you can do these other things, even though stocks like aren't really like a, you know, a form of currency in the same sense of, well, you know, go to the store and use it to buy milk, as he referenced. But it was a great watch. Great watch. And Dr. Bacal, thank you so much for hanging on out through this. One last final talk. We talked with, I didn't know this, so we did an interview with Arthur. And like at the beginning of it, he tells me that he's the co-founder of Tezos, which is a huge blockchain if you don't know. I was like, what the hell? But he's tokenizing uranium. And so you've probably heard of people being gold maxis. But have you ever heard of a uranium maxi? They're tokenizing it. They're working with Cameco, a whole bunch of crazy stuff. We get into a bajillion different topics. The guy's an absolute genius. And it's 30 minutes. Well, a little bit less than 30 minutes. But if you're going out for a drive, you're wanting something a little bit different, you can check out the link down below if you're watching on YouTube. Or if you follow me on X, if you want to check out my bio, you'll be able to see on there. Or if you just type in RWA segments anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Happy Friday. And I'll see you on Monday. Peace.